everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. So you may recall that last week I did a video all about my favorite underrated historical romances. If you missed that video, I will of course link that up in the cards above. So this week I thought I would do a video about my favorite underrated contemporary romances. So what I did is what I usually do with my underrated videos, which is I go on Goodreads and I sort all of my read books by number of ratings, meaning the amount of people that have read them and rated them on Goodreads, and I reversed that so that all of the books with the lowest amount of ratings come up first. So just like with last week's video, actually, I have 16 contemporary adult romances to recommend to you guys today, and these are going to be pretty rapid fire recommendations. I'm not going to delve too deeply into the plots or anything like that. With most of these books, I don't even remember the characters' names, so I'm sorry for that, but it's been quite a while since I read these books. So yeah, without further ado, let's just get into it. So the first two novellas that I actually want to recommend are part of the same series by Naima Simone. The first one is Only for a Night. This one has 1,065 ratings, and the second one is Only for Your Touch, which has 351 ratings. So I'm just gonna show the first book for a second. But this is a series of 3 novellas. I still need to read the third one. I'm not quite sure why I didn't read it because I really enjoyed the first two, but this series centers around these 3 best friends who I believe were a part of the Irish mob, and now they own a sex club together. And so this first one is a second chance romance between one of the guys and this girl. I believe they were childhood best friends and maybe they dated when they were younger. I can't quite remember the plots of all of these, but basically she shows up to the sex club and is like, yo, I know that we can't be together for various reasons, but I just want to be with you for a night. So it's essentially their one night stand, and because it's a sex club, there's a lot of different kinky things going on. I can't remember if it's this one or the second one that has to do specifically with voyeurism, but I do remember that there was a really hot threesome scene in this one involving the couple and one of his best friends, like one of the other guys that runs the club with him. And then the second one, Only for Your Touch, I remember that this one's about Sasha, who was the friend that joined the threesome in the first novella, but I don't quite remember how the 2 main characters know each other. It might be another second chance romance, but I'm not quite sure. But yeah, both of these novellas were just such a fun time. I gave them both 4 stars. Highly recommend if you're looking for a short and sweet smutty romance. Next up we have Big Bad Cowboy. This one has 606 ratings by Carly Bloom. This is book 1 in her Once Upon a Time in Texas series. Now I will say that I read the second book and I really did not like it. I gave it 2 stars, so definitely won't be mentioning that one in this video, but this one I gave 4 stars and I really enjoyed. Now I will be upfront, I don't read a lot of cowboy romances, not really sure why. It just seems like that subgenre doesn't have a lot of great books. If I'm being honest, like a lot of them come off very cheesy for some reason, but I would like to read more of them, so if you have recommendations, definitely leave them in the cards below. But as you can probably tell by the title of the series, this one is essentially fairy tale retellings set in modern day Texas. This one's like very loosely retelling of Little Red Riding Hood. Really the only element from the story is that at the very beginning of this book, our main character is dressed up as Little Red. They are at a Halloween party. The hero is wearing a wolf mask and they decide to have a one-night stand together, but he keeps his mask on. So he knows who she is, but she does not know who he is. And so essentially what ends up happening is that they have to work together, I think to flip a house or renovate a house, I can't quite remember. And so it's a little bit of an enemies to lover situation, but like I said, he knows that she's the woman that he had a one-night stand together with, so there's kind of like secrets and miscommunication going on in that regard, but I had a really fun time. Also gave this one 4 stars. Next one is another cowboy romance actually that I absolutely adored, and I really need to reread this. This is Picture Perfect Cowboy by Tiffany Rice. So this is technically, I want to say like book 10 or 11 in her original Sinners series, which is probably her most popular series. She tends to write darker and BDSM centered romances, by the way. But This one, it's more of a spin-off. Like, you really don't need to read the other books in this series to read this one. The bulk of the original Sinner series, you do have to read in order, but this one is a completely separate story. And so we are centering around our main characters. The hero is a bull rider. He's a very famous bull rider. And so our heroine is a photographer taking pictures of him for a magazine that is featuring him and his bull riding career. And so through that, they form a friendship and a romantic relationship. And our heroine is in the BDSM community. She is a sub, and she recognizes that the hero has dominant tendencies, I guess you could say. So this novel is all about her teaching him how to be a dominant, and it was really hot, but also a really sweet romance. I was just so here for it. So if you are looking for a cowboy romance that is actually really good, this is definitely one to go with. Next is another novella series. Actually, this one is the Gift series by Lauren Blakely. So the first one is the Engagement Gift. This one has 3,335 ratings. The second one is the Virgin Gift. That one has 3,128 ratings. And the third and final one is the Decadent Gift, and that one has 1,234 ratings. I say the third and final book, but I think she's planning on writing more novellas in this series, because essentially this series centers around this pretty big group of friends. They all live in Vegas. So the first one, the Engagement Gift, as you can probably tell, it's about an engaged couple. And so the gift that the hero gives to the heroine is a threesome with one of his best friends. So this one, I think, is the shortest of the three. I think this was only like a 2.5 hour audiobook. Yeah, this was really hot and short, so you can definitely breeze through this ebook or audiobook, however you decide to read it. The second one, the Virgin Gift, this one is about our main character who is a virgin. I do remember that she's also a photographer, and this one is a friends to lovers romance. What I really enjoyed about this one is that, yes, it is a virgin heroine trope, but the heroine wasn't naive about sex. It was just good to see a romance where the heroine knew what was going on, knew kind of what she wanted in bed and things like that. Because basically what happens is that the two of them kind of enter this like friends with benefits situation, and I think she also has like a bucket list of certain things that she wants to do in the bedroom, and he is more than willing to oblige her with all of that. So yeah, again, another fun one. And then the Decadent Gift, this one I believe had to do specifically with role playing. I can't remember if the couple was already together or not. But yeah, this one was fun as well. So highly recommend all three of these. Next one is actually a romantic suspense novel. Now, this is a subgenre that I haven't read a lot from, to be quite honest. A lot of them come off as very cheesy. But this book that I'm going to talk about was actually really well done, and it's also book one in a new series. This is Whiteout by Adriana Anders. So as you can probably tell from the cover, this takes place in a very cold climate. So we are in Antarctica at a research base, and we have our hero Ford. He is a glaciologist, I think that's what he is researching there. Basically, he discovers this dormant virus in the ice, and there are these bad guys that want to get their hands on this virus so that they can turn it into a bioweapon. And then we have our heroine Angel, who is a cook for this research base. And so basically what happens is that pretty much everybody else except her and Ford leave the research base. Now they are trapped with these bad guys, and they are on the run, literally racing across Antarctica to get to another research base to get away from these men. Definitely very suspenseful, but I really enjoyed the romance too, because it was a lot of forced proximity between the two of them. Obviously they had to camp together and huddle together for warmth, and I was just so here for it. So I definitely recommend this one. Also, just to let you know, this one has 1,686 ratings. So yes, more people definitely need to read this one. Another one I want to recommend is Love Wrecked by Karina Halley. Karina Halley is an author that I've read a couple of books by, and I have enjoyed all of them so far. She is slowly but surely becoming one of my favorite contemporary romance authors, and this book is amazing because she wrote it during the beginning of the COVID pandemic, and you can tell that she wrote it not only to comfort herself during the pandemic, but also to comfort her readers. Also, before I forget, I just want to mention that this one has 4,124 ratings. We have our main character, Daisy. She comes to New Zealand to see her sister get married to a local. And then we have this other man, Ty, who is the best man of this wedding. He picks her up at the airport and things start off really rocky between the two of them. And what I really loved about this book, I had to give it 5 stars by the way, is the balance of the comedy and the drama, because basically what happens is Daisy and Ty end up having to go on her sister's honeymoon, because I think they're sailing from one island in New Zealand to another, and it's like a 10-day sailing trip, and it's not a very big boat, so it really isn't safe for just the two of them to sail out together. So that's why Ty and Daisy join them. What ends up happening is they wreck on a deserted island, and so there is plenty of comedy and drama that ensues. There is a random goat that lives on this island. Yeah, I just love this so much. Also, I highly recommend this if you're looking for a low angst romance, in that there is no third act breakup, and I personally really love that. Also, as usual with Karina Halley, the smut in this was chef's kiss. I want to quickly mention the Naughty Princess Club series by Tara Civic. I talked about this series quite a bit in my top 10 romances of 2020, so I'll link that video up in the cards above if you want to know more about why I love this series. But essentially there are 3 books in this series that are retellings of Disney movies that we all know and love. The first one is a retelling of Cinderella, the second one is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, and the third one is a retelling of The Little Mermaid. I want to point out that Tara Civic's humor is pretty out there. It's definitely ridiculous at times, but I personally found it to be really funny, so I highly recommend these books. But I just wanted to make you aware of that in case you are someone that doesn't necessarily appreciate that kind of sense of humor. Another book actually by Tara Civic that I want to mention is Heidi's Guide to 4-Letter Words. So this one has 4,606 ratings. This one's a pretty short book. I think this is an Audible original audiobook, but I'm pretty sure it was also published in ebook form, but I did just listen to the audiobook while I was driving around. But this one is about Heidi. She lives in Minnesota. She gets laid off from her teaching job, and she gets a job at this audiobook recording company where they only record very smutty adult romances. And so she is scandalized by this whole thing, but she decides that she wants to get more comfortable with that kind of material. And so she creates a podcast where she literally reads sex scenes from romance novels to try to get herself more comfortable with her own sexuality and just the subject matter in general. There's also a really adorable romance between her and her neighbor, Brent, I believe his name is. So yeah, I can't recommend this enough. I laughed out loud several times while listening to this book. Next book I want to mention is A Girl Like Her by Talia Hibbert. This book has, let's see, 4,919 ratings, and this one is amazing because it has autism representation. Our main character, Ruth, has autism. She is also a woman of color and she is plus size. Basically, there was some incident that happened where now a lot of the people in the town do not like her, and they spread rumors about her, and they think that she's just this terrible human. And so there is this ex-military man, Evan, who moves to town. He is her new next door neighbor, and they form a relationship. This is just a really sweet romance. There's some scenes that I still vividly remember where they bond over comic books together. Like, she lends him some of her favorite comic books and he really enjoys them as well. So that's really sweet. I always enjoy Talia Hibbert's romances. All of them are really unique, and this one, like I said, still stands out in my mind. So yes, highly recommend. Next one I want to mention is Only When It's Us by Chloe Leese. This is book 1 in her Bergman Brothers series. And this one, let's see, has 5,804 ratings. So we are getting progressively higher and higher in the amount of ratings. But this one was just so freaking good. I couldn't give less than 5 stars. It actually almost made my top 10 romances of 2020. That's how much I adored this. So this one is amazing because it has disability representation. Chloe Leese is an author that she makes a point of including some kind of disability representation in all of her romance novels, which I really, really appreciate. This one is about Ryder and Willa. Ryder had bacterial meningitis, I believe, when he was younger, and now he is pretty much deaf. Later in the book, we see that he does get like hearing implants so that he can hear. So I don't think his hearing is completely gone, but without the implants, he pretty much can't hear anything. And then we have our heroine Willa. She is a soccer player. It's kind of a sunshine grump trope, but Willa the heroine is the grump and Ryder is more of the sunshiny character. This one was just really adorable. Ryder is basically a swoony cinnamon roll lumberjack looking guy. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about this book, but I just highly, highly recommend it. I'm also really excited to read the other 2 books in this series that are out so far. All right, guys, I have one last recommendation for you guys, and that is The Unrequited by Saffron A. Kent. Now, I will be upfront with you guys. This one has 8,419 ratings. I'm not quite sure if I would call this underrated because that's quite a few ratings in my opinion. But this is a book that I don't hear enough people talk about on BookTube. So this is definitely a darker romance. I don't typically enjoy a lot of darker romances just because there's a lot of tropes involved in them that I don't particularly like. But in this instance, I really enjoyed it, and I think that's mainly due to Saffron A. Kent's writing. So this book is like the perfect romance novel for sad white girls who love Lana Del Rey. Like, that is the perfect description for this book. So when I first went into this book, I thought this was going to be more of a thriller, actually, based off of the description, because we have our main character, Layla. She's had crushes on guys throughout her life. They've all been unrequited. And so she meets her poetry professor, whose name is Thomas. She starts to become obsessed with him. I thought that this was going to become a creepy stalkery story. And it kind of starts off that way, but then we find out that Thomas is just as obsessed with her as she is with him. I do want to point out that this book involves cheating because Thomas is married. For some reason, I think it's because of Kent's writing. I didn't hate it in this instance. You know, usually I despise cheating in books, but like for some reason it worked. Yeah, I just think that this is dark romance at its finest. I also think that this would be a really good book to read if you are someone that kind of wants to dip your toe into the dark romance subgenre, but you're not really sure where to start. So yes, highly, highly recommend. I could not give this less than 5 stars. All right, guys, that's going to be it for this underrated contemporary adult romance recommendations video. As usual, I would love it if you would leave a comment below giving me some of your recommendations of your favorite adult romances. And I would love it if you want to discuss any of the books that I brought up in this video. Also, I would love it if you would leave a like and subscribe, and I thank you in advance if you do. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!